When I first learned this mixing trick, I thought, this might be illegal. You probably already know about sidechain compression, using the audio from one source to trigger gain reduction on another channel. But there are two problems with this technique. Number one, sidechaining a bunch of different tracks requires a new instance of the compressor on every single channel in your mix. This can get cumbersome really quickly, especially if you feel like you want to make a change to the compressor. Now you've got to go through and change 30 compressors. No thank you. Problem number two, if you're using this technique for frequency masking problems, for example, vocals and guitars, the quieter vocal parts will trigger less gain reduction on the guitars than the louder vocal parts will.
I don't know if I see you again or it's a see and I don't know.
And this is actually the opposite of what we want. There is a way to solve both of these problems with one mixing technique, and I'm going to show you how to do it today. We're going to use phase cancellation on a return track with a gate being triggered by the sidechain input source and then a utility plugin to reverse the polarity. Wait, don't go anywhere. This sounds way more complicated than it actually is. I'm going to walk you through every step. This is a technique I learned from a really cool book called Mixing Secrets for the Small Studio. It's by Mike Sr. I highly recommend this book. Go buy it. I'll put a link in the description. In the chapter on sidechain compression, he just dropped this out of nowhere and it totally changed the way I mix music. So I wanted to share it with you today. Here's how this works. Step one, create a new return track. Next, we're going to add a gate. So now we can set the sidechain on the gate to whatever audio source we want to trigger the gain reduction. In this example, we're going to use the kick drum. Step three, add a utility plugin after the gate. Now here's where the wizardry comes in. We're going to flip the polarity on this return track by selecting the phase buttons on both the left and the right channels on this utility plugin. Inverting the polarity makes an audio signal that looks like this look like this. Then if you play both audio signals at the same time, they will cancel each other out. This is what we call phase cancellation. It has something to do with math or physics or something weird, but for us, all we need to know is that it works. Step four, let's send this synth keys to the return track and see what happens. Just like magic, we can hear gain reduction on the synth keys when the kick drum is hitting. How is this possible? The gate is hearing the kick, but is actually allowing the synth keys to pass through it. I think of it as like the kick drum is knocking on the door of the gate, but then when the door actually opens up, it's the synth keys that are moving through it. The gate lets out a little burst of the synth keys whenever the gate is open, when the kick is hitting. That makes sense, right? Here's where it gets kind of crazy, but stick with me. After the gate, we have this utility plugin. Remember how we switched the polarity on this utility? That means we have flipped the polarity on whatever comes out of this return track. That means that this return track is sending back out into the mix an inverted signal of whatever we send into it, but only when the gate is open. And remember what we said about phase cancellation. Whenever that little burst of the inverted synth keys enters back into the mix, it causes phase cancellation with the regular synth keys. And that means that the gain is reducing just at the part where the kick drum is hitting. Is your mind blown yet? Try this. Now let's send another instrument to this gate as well. Try sending the bass to it. It's happening with the bass too. What we've done is we've created a sidechain effect that can be applied to any other channel in the song just by sending that channel to the return, because whatever you send will be inverted and then sent back into the mix only in the bursts that are triggered by the kick drum opening up that gate. This means that we can control the sidechain amount of all of these channels simply by controlling the level of the send. It's really magical. Experiment with your own variations of this technique and unlock a whole new level of awesomeness in your mixes.
Am I still streaming?
Thanks so much for watching. If you got any value out of this video, all I ask is that you give it a thumbs up. You can subscribe to my channel right here. And speaking of mix awesomeness, I think you'll really benefit from this video in which I show you why you should not use track layers in your mixes. Thanks again. See you next time.